Alright, so there has been an incident with the Cessna. Let's roll that post-crash footage. Alright guys, today's a sad day. Definitely a video I didn't want to make. But the Seagull Cessna is done. She was flying really good. I came around, made a couple of turns, and just lost signal. She was wavering back and forth right and left, and she just drove herself in. So I'm gonna have to do some post determination to see exactly if I can figure out what happened, but it's a sad day. She was just getting trimmed out. She was really flying good, but she's done now. So yeah, sad day. The walk of shame. Unfortunately, it's just something that happens in the hobby. It doesn't matter how good of a pilot you are or are not. When you have an electronic failure, there's nothing you can do. And I did. I just came around and she just waggled her wings and just flipped over on her back. So tried to go to idle and shut her down, but yeah, she's done. So sad day, but there'll be other planes, there'll be other days. We'll do a little bit of a post on this and see if we can figure out what happened. But yeah, not good. So as you can see, that it was kind of fun to just lose control, not have signal for the airplane, just watch it drive itself into the ground. And I mean, it just happened, like I said, but it's never a good day. But I mean, as bad as it kind of looked, it really isn't horrible. The airframe is trash, and could I rebuild it? Maybe, and make it fly right, but for me, it's going to end up taking too much time. So I decided I would just reorder the airframe and move what I can out of this one into the new one. So in my thinking about the crash and trying to figure out what just happened, you could see in the video I actually forgot to turn the motor off, so it's still idling. But that means what it means as far as the center section really didn't take a hit. Everything was absorbed by the wings. They really tried to hit every limb they could find on the way down. But as far as the fuselage, there's a little scrape on the spinner where it touched something green, but the motor is still in great shape. I did some investigation on that, turned it back on, turns nice and centered, nice and solid. The prop is good, didn't seem like it took a hit. But yeah, the wings really took a beating. The aileron servos are, in my opinion, not trustworthy at this point. So when the ends came off, one came completely off. It actually ripped the end out of this servo over here, and that pulled hard enough that I just don't trust that the solder joint inside of that servo is any good. So I could put a new end on that, but I just don't trust it. And this one didn't pull out. The wing stayed connected, but it pulled hard enough on it that I just don't trust that servo. So I'm going to replace that one also. But as far as the motor, prop, ESC, battery, and the servos inside, they're all good. The tail section didn't take damage, but the rear windshield took a lot of damage, and that's just because it pushed so hard on the wings that it actually ripped that portion out. But the other part of this is, well, what caused that to happen? and it really came down to, it was a brownout. So I just lost signal. She was flying along really nice across the top of the trees at the end of our field, and I dropped one wing. Let's see, it dropped the left wing, and I corrected on the sticks, brought it back around, or what I thought corrected, but it kind of just righted itself a hair, dropped the right wing, and that's when I noticed that she was going into a stalled condition. And out in the field, I really wanted to deny that I stalled it, but the more I think about it and the more I look at it and think about what the airplane was doing, she rolled to the right and then she came back around and rolled on her back, and that's when she really went in, and I pulled the throttle back at that point. But I do enough maneuvers below the stall speed, I can really recognize the stall. So I wanted to deny that it stalled. It's like, how would I let it stall? I know how to look for the stall, I know how to recognize it. But if the system browned out, then it would have gone to an idle condition, back to a fail-safe condition, which would have been idle, and I wouldn't have been able to control the throttle to get it high enough to keep it flying. So I do think it stalled ultimately just because it went into a fail-safe condition. So that's actually the second incident I had with this airplane. I had one other that she was flying along great, coming in on landing, really nice glide slope, looked like she was going to touch down really nice, and when I went to flare, she didn't flare, and she drove the prop and the front wheel into the ground. So that tells me that, and I actually figured at that point that one was my fault, that I didn't account for a poor wind condition or something like that. But now after this, I think that was a brownout condition also, where it just wasn't listening. When I told it to flare, it just didn't. And so that tells me there were a couple of warning signs out there that this radio system was not up to par and it was going to fail. And one of those warning signs was the fact that occasionally when I would plug the battery in, the radio wouldn't connect. It would give me a single beep on the battery, and after 4 or 5 seconds, then it would connect and give me 6 beeps counting the battery cells. So that should have been my first warning, and that really bad landing that I had to repair should have been a second warning. But I really kind of blame myself for that one, because I really didn't see a reason why. This receiver's older, so it's got the old telemetry module in it that you have to push the button to see, and I checked that a couple of times and didn't see any issues. At least one of the antennas was getting signal all the time, but I should have actually paid attention to that and ripped this receiver out when it started doing that. So this is the price I pay for not paying attention to the warning signs. So I've got a new airframe already bought. That'll come in. I'll strip this down for parts. The only good thing about getting the same plane again is I'll actually have extra parts. The windshield didn't get harmed, the front cowling didn't get harmed, so I'll actually reuse those. I'll keep the new ones in a box, and if I ever have another incident, I've got a backup. So keep watching for this one to get rebuilt, and I'll try to get a good maiden video when I do that. So happy flying, everybody.